السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. All praise belongs to Allah, the Lord of the heavens and the earth, the one whose knowledge has no beginning and no end, the one who knows every secret hidden inside our hearts, every tear that falls in the darkness of the night, and every prayer whispered when no one else is listening. May peace and countless blessings be upon our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his family, his companions, and everyone who follows his guidance until the last day. My dear brothers and sisters, there is one burden that silently steals the happiness of millions of people every single day. It is not poverty. It is not sickness. It is not even failure. It is the fear of tomorrow. Think about how often your mind leaves today. Instead of appreciating the blessings surrounding you at this very moment, your thoughts race towards a future that has not even arrived. What if I lose my job? What if I never get married? What if I become sick? What if I fail? What if my children go astray? What if everything falls apart? Before long, these questions begin to multiply. Your heart becomes heavy. Your sleep becomes restless. Your smile becomes difficult. The future starts feeling like a dark road filled with dangers waiting to happen. Yet, how many of those fears have actually become reality? Very few, perhaps none at all. The human mind has an incredible ability to imagine disasters that never happen. Shaitan understands this weakness. He whispers endless possibilities. He fills the heart with uncertainty. He wants you to become so overwhelmed by tomorrow that you forget the blessings Allah has already placed in your life today. But Islam teaches us something completely different. The believer does not live as a prisoner of tomorrow. The believer lives with confidence because tomorrow belongs to Allah. That single truth changes everything. Allah already knows the tomorrow you cannot see. He already knows every opportunity waiting for you, every hardship that will strengthen you, every blessing that will eventually be answered. Nothing about your future is hidden from Him. Nothing catches Allah by surprise. Before your first breath, Allah already knew your final breath. Before your first smile, He knew every tear you would ever cry. Before you learned to walk, He had already prepared every road you would travel. How then can we believe that our future is out of control? It has never been out of control. It has always been in the hands of the most merciful. This realization brings a peace that the world cannot offer, because the world tells you to depend entirely upon yourself. Islam teaches you to work hard while trusting completely in Allah. These are two very different ways of living. One creates endless anxiety. The other creates unshakable peace. Imagine boarding an airplane. Most passengers never meet the pilot. They cannot see the cockpit. They do not understand how every instrument works. Yet they remain seated with confidence because they trust the one guiding the journey. Now compare that trust with our relationship with Allah, the one who created the heavens, the one who controls every heartbeat, the one who has never made a mistake. Surely He deserves infinitely greater trust than any human being. If we can trust a pilot with our journey, why do we struggle to trust Allah with our lives? The answer is simple. Because we often confuse uncertainty with danger. Just because we cannot see tomorrow does not mean tomorrow is frightening. Sometimes the greatest blessings arrive unexpectedly. Think back over your own life. How many beautiful moments happened that you never planned? Perhaps you met someone who changed your life.
Perhaps an unexpected opportunity appeared. Perhaps a hardship led you towards a better future. None of those moments were accidents. They were part of Allah's perfect design. The Quran constantly reminds us that Allah knows what we do not know. This is not merely information, it is an invitation to trust, an invitation to surrender, an invitation to stop carrying burdens that were never meant for our shoulders. Many people exhaust themselves trying to control every detail of life. They believe that if they think long enough, plan carefully enough, or worry deeply enough, they can somehow guarantee a better future. But worrying has never changed destiny. It only steals today's peace. Imagine carrying a heavy suitcase everywhere you go. Not because you need it today, but because you fear you might need it next month. Eventually, your arms become tired, your shoulders ache, your body becomes exhausted. This is exactly what anxiety does to the heart. It forces you to carry tomorrow's weight before tomorrow even arrives. Allah never asked you to do that. Allah asks you to trust Him one day at a time. This does not mean you stop planning. Islam encourages preparation. The Prophet tied his camel before placing his trust in Allah. He took practical steps, then he relied upon Allah completely. That is the balance every believer should seek. Work sincerely, study diligently, save wisely, care for your family, improve yourself every day, but never believe that your effort alone controls the outcome. Effort belongs to you, results belong to Allah. When that truth settles inside your heart, fear begins disappearing. One of the greatest causes of stress today is comparison. We constantly compare our lives with everyone else's. Someone buys a new house, someone else gets married, another person receives a promotion, someone starts a successful business. Slowly, we begin believing that our own life is falling behind. But who created these imaginary deadlines? Allah did not. People did. Allah never told you that success must arrive at 25, or 30, or 40. Every soul has its own journey. Every heart has its own lessons. Every life unfolds according to Allah's wisdom. Look at nature. Does every flower bloom on the same day? Of course not. Some flowers bloom early, others bloom much later. Yet every flower is beautiful because it blooms exactly when Allah intended. Perhaps your season has not arrived yet. That does not mean it never will. Sometimes Allah delays blessings because your heart still needs preparation. Perhaps greater gratitude must develop first. Perhaps stronger faith. Perhaps deeper patience. Because some blessings require a stronger version of you. Allah is not merely preparing the blessing, He is preparing the person who will receive it. And that preparation is itself a mercy. Brothers and sisters, there is another beautiful reality we often overlook. Every delay gives us another opportunity to become closer to Allah. Think about your own life. During which moments did you make your most sincere dua? Was it during times of complete comfort, or during moments of desperation? Most of us discover the sweetness of dua during hardship. We discover humility. We discover dependence upon Allah. We discover that our hearts were never meant to rely upon this world. Sometimes Allah allows uncertainty because uncertainty brings us back to Him. And returning to Allah is always the greatest success. So if your future feels unclear today, do not panic. Perhaps Allah is inviting you to know Him more deeply. Perhaps He is teaching your heart to rely upon Him instead of relying upon worldly certainty. because certainty in Allah is infinitely stronger than certainty in circumstances. Circumstances change. Allah never changes. People disappoint. Allah never disappoints. Opportunities disappear. Allah's mercy never disappears. This is why the believer walks through life differently, not because life becomes easier, but because faith becomes stronger. When everyone else is overwhelmed, the believer remembers Allah. When everyone else is panicking, the believer raises their hands in dua. When everyone else loses hope, the believer remembers that Allah's mercy is always greater than today's difficulty. And slowly, that remembrance transforms fear into tranquility.
My dear brothers and sisters, as we reach the end of this reminder, I want you to imagine something. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning without fear. Not because every problem has disappeared, not because your bank account has suddenly become full, not because every prayer has already been answered, but because your heart has finally learned to trust Allah completely. Can you imagine how peaceful such a heart would be? A heart that no longer panics over what it cannot control. A heart that no longer compares itself with others. A heart that no longer measures Allah's love by worldly success. Instead, it rests peacefully, knowing that every chapter of life is being written by the Most Merciful. This is the heart every believer should strive for. Not a heart without trials, but a heart that remains firm during trials. Because life will always change. Some days will bring happiness. Other days will bring sadness. Some mornings will begin with good news. Others may begin with disappointment. This is the nature of this temporary world. Allah never promised a life without hardship. He promised His companionship for those who remember Him. And that changes everything. When Allah is with you, no hardship lasts forever. No sadness remains forever. No difficulty continues forever. Everything in this world has an ending, except Allah's mercy. Think about every storm you have survived. At the time, you thought it would never end. You believed the pain would last forever. Yet today, those moments have become memories. Why? Because Allah brought you through them. Perhaps you did not even notice how He was helping you. Sometimes His help comes through people. Sometimes through unexpected opportunities. Sometimes through wisdom gained from hardship. Sometimes through strength you never realized you possessed. And sometimes His greatest help comes by changing your heart before He changes your circumstances. Because a peaceful heart can survive almost anything. Brothers and sisters, one of the most beautiful qualities of a believer is husn adhan billah, having a good opinion of Allah. It means believing that whatever Allah chooses for you is better than what you would have chosen for yourself, even when you do not understand it. Imagine standing before a magnificent painting, but instead of stepping back, you place your face just a few centimeters from the canvas. All you see are random colors. Nothing makes sense. But when you step back, the masterpiece becomes clear. Our lives are exactly like that. We often judge Allah's plan from one painful moment, one difficult year, one unanswered prayer. But Allah sees the complete picture, the beginning, the middle, and the end. If only we could see our lives the way Allah sees them, we would never lose hope. We would never question His wisdom. We would never doubt His mercy. Because every event has its place. Every delay has its purpose. Every hardship carries hidden goodness. My dear brothers and sisters, never allow Shaitan to convince you that your situation will never improve. That is one of his oldest lies. He whispered despair to countless people before us,
But Allah repeatedly reminds us in the Quran never to despair of His mercy. As long as you are alive, your story is not over. As long as you can still raise your hands in dua, hope remains alive. As long as your tongue can still say, Astaghfirullah. As long as your heart can still say, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. As long as your soul still believes, Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakil, then you possess treasures that many people spend their entire lives searching for. These are not merely phrases, they are lifelines. When your heart feels overwhelmed, say, Astaghfirullah. When anxiety begins taking over, say, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. When you no longer know what to do, say, Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakil. Repeat them with certainty, not mechanistically, not absent-mindedly, but believing every word. Because remembrance of Allah is not about informing Allah, it is about transforming the heart of the servant. The more you remember Allah, the less power fear has over you. The more you remember Allah, the less this world controls your emotions. The more you remember Allah, the stronger your tawakkul becomes. Eventually, you begin seeing every challenge differently. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me? You begin asking, what is Allah teaching me through this? Instead of saying, my life is falling apart, you begin saying, perhaps Allah is rebuilding my life in a better way. What a beautiful transformation! This is not positive thinking, this is faithful thinking. There is a tremendous difference. Positive thinking depends upon circumstances. Faith depends upon Allah. Circumstances change every day. Allah never changes. His mercy never changes. His wisdom never changes. His promises never change. And that is why believers never lose hope. Brothers and sisters, perhaps someone listening today has almost given up. Maybe you have been searching for work for months. Maybe your debts continue increasing. Maybe your marriage is struggling. Maybe your health worries you. Maybe your heart has become tired from waiting. If that is you, please hear these words. Don't quit 5 minutes before Allah opens the door. Don't stop making dua one day before your answer arrives. Don't lose hope when Allah may already be preparing the greatest blessing of your life. Remember, when Yusuf was inside prison, he did not know he was only one conversation from freedom. When Musa stood before the sea, he did not know the water was moments from opening. When Yunus was inside the whale, he did not know deliverance was so close. Likewise, you do not know how close Allah's help may be. Never underestimate what Allah can change in one single day. One phone call can change your career. One opportunity can transform your finances. One sincere dua can change your heart forever. One moment of Allah's mercy can rewrite your entire future. Nothing is impossible for the Lord of the worlds. So continue walking towards Him. Continue praying. Continue trusting. Continue smiling. Continue remembering Him, even when you cannot yet see the destination, because every sincere step towards Allah is met with mercy. As we conclude, let us raise our hearts before our Lord. O Allah, forgive every sin we have committed, whether openly or in secret. Purify our hearts from arrogance, envy, doubt, and despair. Replace our fear with tranquility. Replace our sadness with hope. Replace our weakness with strength. O Allah, grant halal rizq to every person struggling financially. Open doors that no one can close. Remove debts from those burdened by them. Grant meaningful work to those searching for employment. Heal every sick person. Comfort every broken heart. Guide every child who has gone astray. Protect our families. Increase us in faith, sincerity, patience, and gratitude. Make the Quran the light of our hearts. Make our tongues constantly alive with your remembrance. Allow our final words in this world to be La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. Gather us with the prophets, the truthful, the martyrs, and the righteous in Jannatul Firdaus. Accept every sincere dua from everyone listening today, and never allow us to lose hope in your infinite mercy. Ameen Ya Rabbal Alameen. My dear brothers and sisters, if there is one message I hope remains with you after this reminder, it is this. Your future is not in the hands of people. It is not in the economy. It is not in luck. It is not in coincidence. Your future has always been in the hands of Allah, and there is no safer place for it to be. So walk forward with faith, live with gratitude, remember Allah often, trust Him completely, and know with absolute certainty the one who carried you yesterday will never abandon you tomorrow. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
My dear brothers and sisters, have you ever stood in prayer, raised your hands toward the sky, asked Allah with complete sincerity, then waited, and waited, and waited? Days turned into weeks. Weeks became months. Months slowly became years. Yet the answer you hoped for never seemed to arrive. Perhaps you began asking yourself questions that many believers quietly ask but rarely say aloud. My Lord, are you listening? My Lord, have you forgotten me? My Lord, why are my prayers taking so long? If these thoughts have ever crossed your mind, know that you are not alone. Nearly every believer experiences moments like these. The difference between those who grow closer to Allah and those who drift away is not whether they experience waiting. The difference is how they understand the waiting. Many people think that silence means rejection, but Allah's silence is never empty. Sometimes His silence is preparation. Imagine a farmer planting seeds into the ground. The very next day, he visits the field. Nothing appears. The second day, still nothing. The third, the fourth, the 10th, still no visible change. Would any wise farmer dig up the seeds every morning just to check if they are growing? Of course not, because growth begins where human eyes cannot see. The roots grow before the branches. Likewise, Allah often begins answering your dua beneath the surface long before you witness any visible change. While you think nothing is happening, Allah may already be arranging people, opening opportunities, removing hidden dangers, strengthening your heart, preparing blessings far greater than the one you originally requested. The believer trusts what cannot yet be seen, because faith has never depended upon sight. It depends upon certainty. My dear brothers and sisters, one of the greatest stories of patience in the Quran is the story of Prophet Yusuf alayhi salam. Reflect carefully upon his journey. As a young boy, he saw a beautiful dream, a dream that promised honor, a dream that hinted at a remarkable future. But between the dream and its fulfillment came years of unimaginable hardship. He was betrayed by his own brothers, thrown into a dark well, sold as a slave, separated from his beloved father, wrongly accused, imprisoned despite his innocence. If we looked only at those chapters, we might conclude that everything had gone terribly wrong. Yet every painful event was quietly moving him toward the destiny Allah had written. The well led him to Egypt. Slavery led him into the palace. Prison led him before the king. And eventually, he became one of the most respected leaders in the land. Subhanallah.
Notice something remarkable. If Allah had removed even one painful chapter, the final destination may never have happened. Sometimes we beg Allah to remove the very road that leads towards our greatest blessing. How often do we ask Allah to eliminate difficulties without realizing those very difficulties are carrying us towards something extraordinary? Brothers and sisters, never judge Allah's plan by one chapter. Your life is not one page, it is an entire book, and Allah is writing every chapter with perfect wisdom. Another story that deeply touches the heart is the story of Prophet Yaqub alayhi salam. Imagine a father losing the son he loved so dearly. Years passed, no news, no certainty, only separation, only tears. The Quran describes how much he cried that his eyesight became weak. Yet despite overwhelming grief, his words remained filled with faith. He said that he only complained of his sorrow to Allah. Notice where he directed his pain, not towards hopelessness, not towards anger, not towards people. He poured his heart out before the one who understood every emotion without needing an explanation. How many of us carry burdens alone because we forget that Allah loves to hear His voice? Never believe that your tears are a sign of weak faith. Even prophets cried. Even the best of creation experienced sadness. Faith does not erode emotion. Faith gives emotion the right direction. Cry if you need to cry, but cry before Allah. Speak openly to Him. Tell Him your fears. Tell Him your disappointments. Tell Him everything. Not because He needs the information, but because your heart needs the conversation. Allah already knows what hurts you, yet He loves hearing His servant call upon Him. Every sincere dua is an act of worship, even if the answer has not yet appeared. Sometimes people stop making dua because they assume Allah has already decided. But understand this beautiful reality. Allah knew you would make that dua before He created you. Your dua itself is part of His divine plan. Perhaps Allah inspired your heart to ask because He intended to give, or perhaps because He intended something even greater. The Prophet ﷺ taught us that every sincere supplication receives a response. Sometimes Allah grants exactly what we ask. Sometimes He delays it for the perfect time. Sometimes He replaces it with something better. Sometimes He removes a calamity we never even knew was approaching. And sometimes He stores the reward for the hereafter. Which of these is a loss? None. Every sincere dua benefits the believer, even the ones we believed went unanswered. Imagine standing before Allah on the Day of Judgment. You discover mountains of rewards waiting for you. You ask, "My Lord, where did these come from?" And you are told, "These are the rewards of the duas that were not answered in the way you expected." Subhanallah. How limited our vision is. We cry because Allah gave us something different, while Allah smiles upon us with something infinitely better. Brothers and sisters, patience is not simply waiting. Patience is worship while waiting. It is praying while waiting. It is smiling while waiting. It is helping others while waiting. It is thanking Allah while waiting. It is believing that His promise remains true even when your eyes cannot yet see it. Anyone can trust Allah after the miracle happens. Faith is trusting Him before it happens. That is what makes tawakkul so beautiful. Every sunrise reminds us of this reality. Night never asks permission to leave. Morning never forgets to arrive. Allah has appointed a time for everything. Just as dawn never comes 1 minute too early, your risk will never arrive too early. Just as sunset never comes 1 minute too late, your blessings will never arrive too late. Allah's timing is perfect because Allah Himself is perfect. If today you feel forgotten, remember Yusuf in the well. If today you feel alone, remember Yaqub in his years of separation. If today you feel trapped, remember Yunus in the darkness of the whale. If today your future seems uncertain, remember Musa standing before the sea. Every prophet faced a situation that looked impossible, yet every impossible situation became another opportunity for Allah to display His limitless power. So never say, "My problem is too big." Instead, say, "My Allah is greater than every problem." That single change in perspective transforms despair into hope. And perhaps that hope is exactly where Allah wants your heart to be.
My dear brothers and sisters, there is a silent battle taking place inside the hearts of millions of people. It cannot be seen. It leaves no visible scars. Doctors often cannot detect it with machines, yet its effects are devastating. It steals sleep. It steals happiness. It steals concentration. It steals gratitude. And if left unchecked, it can even steal a person's hope. That battle is overthinking. Many people believe overthinking is simply part of having a busy mind. But for a believer, overthinking often becomes one of Shaitan's most effective weapons. Because Shaitan understands something about the human heart. He knows he doesn't always need you to commit major sins. Sometimes, if he can keep your heart drowning in fear, if he can keep your thoughts trapped in endless what-ifs, if he can convince you that Allah's help is far away, then he has already distracted you from remembering your Lord. Notice how overthinking usually begins. It rarely starts with something enormous. Instead, it begins with a single thought. What if I fail? Then another thought appears. What if everyone laughs at me? Then another. What if I never recover? Before long, one small thought has become an endless storm inside your mind. The problem is not the first thought. The problem is that we invite it to stay. Imagine someone knocks on your front door. You have two choices. You can politely ignore the knock, or you can open the door and invite the stranger to live inside your home. Negative thoughts work the same way. Not every thought deserves your attention. Not every fear deserves your belief. Not every whisper deserves a response. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, taught us that Shaitan whispers into the hearts of people. He plants doubts. He plants fear. He plants hopelessness. Then he quietly watches to see whether we nurture those whispers or replace them with remembrance of Allah. My dear brothers and sisters, one of the greatest differences between a believer and someone without faith is not that believers never experience fear. Even the prophets experienced moments of concern. Even they faced uncertainty, but they always returned to Allah. That was the difference. When fear entered their hearts, faith answered it. When uncertainty appeared, trust replaced it. When hardship arrived, hope remained alive. Consider Prophet Ibrahim alayhi salam. He was thrown into a blazing fire. From a human perspective, there was absolutely no escape. No door, no water, no protection. Everything suggested that his story would end there. Yet his heart remained connected to Allah, and Allah simply commanded the fire, "Be coolness and safety." Reflect upon that. The fire did not disappear. Its nature changed by the command of Allah. Subhanallah. How many fires exist in our own lives today? Financial difficulties, family problems, health concerns, depression, loneliness, unanswered prayers. Perhaps Allah will not remove every fire immediately. Perhaps He will make the fire itself unable to harm your faith. That is even a greater miracle, because true victory is not always the removal of hardship. Sometimes
True victory is remaining close to Allah while walking through the hardship. Brothers and sisters, our generation has become addicted to certainty. We want guarantees before taking the first step. We want every answer before making a decision. We want to know exactly how everything will unfold. But Allah never promised complete knowledge of the future. He promised His guidance, and there is a tremendous difference between those two things. Imagine driving through a long road at night. Your headlights only illuminate a short distance ahead. You cannot see the entire journey, yet you continue driving. Why? Because each small section of light is enough to move forward. Faith works exactly the same way. Allah does not always reveal the entire road. He gives enough light for the next step, then the next, then the next. This is how tawakkul grows, not by seeing everything, but by trusting the one who sees everything. One reason overthinking becomes so dangerous is because it tricks us into believing we are solving problems. In reality, we are simply repeating them inside our minds. There is a huge difference between planning and worrying. Planning asks, what should I do next? Worry asks, what if everything goes wrong? Planning leads to action. Worry leads to exhaustion. Planning is productive. Worry is paralyzing. Shaitan wants you trapped inside your imagination. Allah wants you moving forward with trust. Never allow worry to become a substitute for action. Take the next halal step. Leave the unseen to Allah. My dear brothers and sisters, one of the most beautiful names of Allah is Al-Wakil, the one who takes care of every affair for those who place their trust in Him. Think about those words. Allah does not simply observe your struggles. He manages them. He arranges them. He controls every outcome. When you truly understand this name, your heart begins to relax. Not because every problem disappears, but because you realize you are no longer carrying those problems alone. Imagine a child walking through a crowded marketplace while holding the hand of a loving parent. The child may not know where they are going. They may not understand the path, but they are not afraid. Why? Because someone stronger is leading them. That is the relationship every believer should have with Allah. You do not have to know every detail of tomorrow. You only need to know who is leading you towards tomorrow. That knowledge alone is enough to calm the heart. So the next time fear whispers, the next time your thoughts begin racing, pause, take a deep breath, say with sincerity, Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakil. Allah is sufficient for us, and He is the best disposer of affairs. Repeat it slowly, not as empty words, but as a declaration of complete trust. Every repetition reminds your heart that Allah has never failed His servants, never once. Not in the time of Prophet Nuh, not in the time of Musa, not in the time of Muhammad, peace be upon him, and He will not fail you today. Perhaps His help will arrive in a way you never expected. Perhaps it will come later than you wished, but it will always arrive at the moment His perfect wisdom chooses. Because Allah is never early, Allah is never late, Allah is always perfectly on time. And one day, you will look back at this season of uncertainty, not with regret, but with gratitude. Because you will realize that every delay, every unanswered question, every sleepless night was quietly leading you towards a future more beautiful than anything you could have planned yourself.